They say that people who live in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. And all I have to say is these people are out here with their fists full of stones, ready for ammo, ready to go. Like these people are really, you are all a bunch of self righteous effers. And my God, I had no idea that you people were all gods walking on water among us. I mean, wow. We have it on all sides, people. That's right. Nobody's safe. We are going to be talking about the one and only Adam Levine today. But alas, we are also going to tie in the one and only Candace Owens and her comments on Kim Kardashian, like doing the most. And we're going to tie in Armie Hammer. Yes, this guy coming out from his basement, like Hannibal Lecter, coming out of the grave, and his ex, Elizabeth Chambers. It all ties together. And for the most part, I just got to say, like, these people, everyone just needs to chill. So, with that being said, let's just start, shall we? Let's just get right into this today on the special surprise weekend ep drop that your panties are ready for, and so are these Instagram models' panties, it seems. We know their panties are always ready to go. But that being said, my, oh my, where do we even start? So first of all, let's talk about this, okay? Because like poor Queen Elizabeth, this lady rolling in her grave already, like she couldn't even have her moment, in the sun. And here it is, like her death being overshadowed by Adam Levine, this rock star over here and the IG model stereotype, like none of these people able to keep it in their pants. This poor lady, she's like, I didn't ask for this. I did not, my monarchy, like my time to shine on the throne didn't ask for this. So here, guys, just where do we start? So here's what I want to say out of the gate. Okay. This obviously, there's a very mainstream view of looking at this sitch. And I'm going to talk about my obviously view on it today as someone who is in Hollywood, who's heard whisperings of people like Adam Levine, who has maybe had a similar situation, who has been brushing shoulders with these types of people. Like, I know the type, and I know the IG model type too. Okay. Like, there is no stone left unturned in this bitch. But with that being said, I feel like it is automatically like, and we know this, right? It has to be in the take of like the man is bad and the woman is the victim. Otherwise, it is anti-women. And I just want to say out of the gate, like, how about the fact that it may not be anti-woman if we have an issue, or maybe think you're not a victim, or maybe think you should take some accountability as a woman. Maybe it's because we, as capable and intelligent and responsible women, are like, this ain't us, bro. Like, what's going on? Like, what about the rest of us? Right. So, with that being said, like, again, chill, everybody. So, Adam Levine, okay, he's married to a Victoria's Secret model, Angel. And so many of you guys were like, I need your thoughts on this. And I just was like, a bitch has been again in Nashville for 2 seconds and I can't get no rest. So, but sure. First things first, people, like, as someone who was in Hollywood, you hear things, you meet people who have met people, who have interviewed people. And funny enough, I've told this story on the show before, but I did cover The Voice once and I sat in the audience, and it was such a mind-blowing experience because Adam Levine did not pursue me to be his mistress that day. Like, sir, I'll take that up with you another time. No, but I sat next to Gwen Stefani's parents in the audience, and it was hilarious because their aesthetic was like a true, like, redneck situation. I am talking like the plaid coats, the Timberland boots, like it was a whole thing. And then here you have Gwen Stefani, like the rocker that she is, with the rhinestones and the studded outfits. And how did that come out? How was that a byproduct? I need to know. But that's my voice story. But people, Adam Levine has been known for, I don't know him personally, okay, but he's been known to kind of be a dick. So let's just say that out of the gate. So you have this Instagram model who like came out of the woodwork. And since she came out, her name is Sumner Stroh. She's in her, I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. It doesn't matter. She's in her, no shade, but let's just get right to it. She's in her early 20s. And now that she's come out about allegedly having an affair with him, you know, airing out these steamy, arguably sex messages, the whole thing. A few other women have come out basically saying that Adam Levine did in fact treat them like, you know, like he was a dick, right? So let's just say that. So this woman comes out on TikTok and says that she had this affair with this man and she was young and naive and felt exploited because there was a power difference and she was new to LA. And, you know, he slid into her DMs and, you know, was pursuing her and said how hot she was and all this stuff and felt like she was manipulated and taken advantage of and all this. And the first thing, but this is going to tie together because I feel like our society doesn't like to acknowledge. I would never excuse shitty behavior. Like if this were my man, he would literally be like, call this the brave little toaster because that guy would be crumbs with flames, like toast pal. His wife, I can't even imagine the humiliation, right? But I feel like this sheds light on something that is almost like a dark side or a side of men and of humans that we just like to be naive about and brush under the rug in a lot of ways, which again isn't the popular thing to say. I'm not excusing it. Like I think he's a sleaze. I think this shows that. And it's like, bro, you're married to a effing Victoria's Secret angel whose legs are longer than the Mississippi. Like, is nothing enough? Like, what's the sitch, right? But neither here nor there. I think that again, this gets into something that we just get like terrified and we have no nuance in society. So we're just going to label it as per usual, as bad. Men are dogs, men are scum, this whole thing, right? Again, wouldn't excuse it, wouldn't allow that shit in my household. But that being said, we'll get to that later, a la Armie Hammer. Like this is an a la carte situation, you know, as Armie prefers his body parts. And so that's just that. So yes, so this girl Sumner ends up sharing their text exchanges. And here's the thing that I can't get behind. Remember that anti-woman thing I talked about earlier? I can't get behind. And a lot of people are calling out this BS. An adult consenting woman, again, he's not out here pulling a Harvey W, being like, I will threaten your livelihood, your career, you're done. You are aforementioned toast. You will never work again. No. Is he using his celebrity status, which he has been accused of by the mainstream media? Absolutely. It's Adam Levine, like the tattoos, the sexiest man alive, the rocker, the whole thing, right? But this is where I don't like the whole playing the naive part on the woman's side, okay? First of all, again, grown 20-something, and you can see even in the DM exchanges, like you are taken by this hot celebrity giving you attention, right? And here's the other part of it that nobody in any of this discourse, I've been watching it play out on all sides, seems to acknowledge. So this is somebody who is an Instagram model. She has 500,000 followers. Now, she says that when this all happened, which by the way, was literally a year and a half ago, again, was young, naive, had, I guess, a come to Jesus moment, was birthed through Mary's, you know, magical vagina all over again and has a new outlook on life. But a year and a half ago, when she was dropped down like an alien from UFOs and had no idea that Adam Levine was married and had no idea she was a celebrity and no idea how Instagram worked in this whole thing, right? Suddenly now it's like this whole new person. But, you know, again, not to be anti-woman or to be criticizing her, but let's take into account that this is somebody who purposefully plays to the human sexuality aspect of us, manipulates thousands of people every day by posting sexy photos of her body. Maybe her following wasn't as big as it was, you know, a year and a half ago. Like she says, when this all happened, she was, quote, young and naive and had just gotten to the LA scene. And that's why she felt exploited by him and taken advantage of and whatever. But my point being, this is a long way of saying, like, you know how the game works. Like, you know what you're doing, you know? And I'm sorry, but it's also like, was Adam Levine using his celebrity status and that entitlement to slide into an IG models or in one other case, allegedly like a yoga instructors, whatever, their DMs? Yes, guys, I've interviewed people on The Bachelor who think that they are Brad Pitt. Okay. And it's like, sir, sir, let me bring you literally back down to the dirt, to earth. Okay. You don't think Adam Levine is going to think this, but let's look on the other end of it. Same thing with this girl. I'm sorry. Okay. We all are going to have this reaction. Most of this, like 99% of us, if there is like, guys, if it's like an Angelina Jolie, or girls, if it's like a Brad Pitt and they're sliding into your DMs, you are going to be taken by that celebrity status and attention. Like, oh my God, so-and-so's paying attention to me. Yeah, this is hot. And you see that in the DMs. Like, he's like, you're so sexy. And she says back to him, like, so are you. I had no idea in real life it'd be even intensified and even more sexy, right? So my point is, like, we have two full well-knowing people here in this scenario. And I'll add this, like, this is not my proudest moment, but I am transparent here on Cancel Me Baby. Okay. I too have had a bit of an affair with somebody who was married. I too was in my early 20s. I too experienced it in a workplace, entertainment business dynamic setting. I too knew what I was doing. That would be like me turning around now. Again, not my proudest moment, but that would be like me turning around now and saying, I felt young, I was exploited, you know, I was in my early 20s. This was like a work thing. He also was much older, right? Like, you didn't come, girl, come on, don't come, but you know what I mean? Like, come on. And that's the part where I think, rightfully so, she has been getting called out by people on this BS, because it's like, you know how this works. You know how like the sexy allure of the Instagram, social media, celebrity, all that works, right? Like, again, consenting, like, you knew what you were doing, like, you knew what was going on, like, you full well knew, right? So there's that. Again, I think this showcases that Adam Levine, it makes him in my mind, like, yes, a sleaze. When I hear Maroon 5 now at Planet Fitness, when I hear them in my elevator, there's a little part of me that's like, dang, like, I was working out the other day and my leg curls, you know, when the Maroon 5 Maps or Sugar, whatever else came out, they just didn't curl quite right. Like, it just, something didn't hit quite right, because made me view the situation a little differently. But with that being said, like, again, if someone who was in a similar boat, I would never come out now and say like all these things, like playing the victim. Now, she claims that a friend of hers was going to sell the story in the DMs to a tabloid, so she wanted to get ahead of it. So this TikTok of hers with the DMs, the whole thing went viral, like hella viral. And she ends up doing a follow-up one, being like, I know a lot of you guys are saying that I'm playing the victim and I'm not. His wife and kids are the victim here, but here's why I did it, whatever, covering her tracks. And again, the Emily Ratajkowski's like, they're not going to want to hear this. Like, to them, again, this is anti-women, but it's like, as much as men have to take accountability and be respectful of women and be a stand-up guy, like, it's not that hard. And sidebar, like, we can teach them that. I've said this for a long time. I think bringing them into the fold helps them understand. I don't think like constantly berating them like men or dogs is going to help, right? But it's the same, like, let's look at it from the other side. Like, I think women also need to take responsibility and accountability. You know what I mean? It's like, you full well know that you are in a situation. Like, I've said this before, and it's like, girl, it's okay. And it's like the married man thing, you know, it's like, sometimes it's kind of what I said about earlier about how there's like a dark, complex nuance to humans. And it's just not as cookie cutter. Like, we're going to get to this in the end. It's like the big picture of it all. But like, sometimes, you know, it just happens to the best of us. Okay. And that's, again, where this whole holier than thou thing comes into play, because you see people criticizing this girl on the other end of it, calling her a homewrecker, falling into the homewrecker stereotype and that kind of stigma, right? I remember I actually wrote a piece. I'll have to go back and revisit it, but I wrote a piece defending Angelina Jolie and the way that she was, you know, labeled with that homewrecker stereotype. But there are so many nuances to the situation. It often comes with a preconceived notion of like someone going in and being like, I'm going to break up this marriage and and, you know, trying to, you know, be destructive and destroy something on purpose and be malicious about it. And I just think it's not that simple. Like, there are so many different nuances to every situation is different. It's case by case. And that's the other thing too, is I've seen a lot of people on the internet be like homewrecker this and homewrecker that. And you know, that's where it's like, who are we to judge? Like, none of us, you don't really know what goes on. None of us really know what goes on behind the scenes. And again, it's just not that simple. So now, though, you have the backlash of people like Emily Ratajkowski, Chriselle from Selling Sunset, saying that looking at her behavior is purely misogynistic, because Emily Ratajkowski, and this is the thing with her, I did a whole episode about it when she came out with her book. I understand that she has a very specific like view and lens and almost axe to grind with men in the industry, because she too has talked about being exploited as someone who is an up and coming actress, model, and taken advantage of, and like the patriarchy of Hollywood, however you want to call it, like the Robin Thicke's, right? And all this. So clearly she's coming on the bandwagon being like, she even acknowledges like, yes, we like to throw stones at men a lot, but like, why are we saying the woman needs to do better and give women a better name and not the man, right? Like that whole thing. And she says it's pure outright misogyny, because Sarah Foster, she did a whole TikTok. Like, again, everyone is this the self, right? Everyone has the answer to everything these days, if you haven't gathered that. Sarah Foster did a TikTok basically being like, men are dogs. They're always going to be dogs, but we as women need to do better. And that's where people like the Emily Ratajkowskis came out countering that, being like, why are you focused on her? Why do women need to do better? We need to focus on men and them doing better, right? Like that kind of thing. And you're seeing this, like, because again, it's anti-woman, right? It's what I said earlier. It's like by default, innately, the woman is in the right, the man is in the wrong, the woman is the victim and being taken advantage of and being exploited, and the man is using like this power imbalance to take advantage, right? And that's the thing too, like a sidebar, there are times when that certainly is true, right? But I don't, there might be a little bit of that in this, but I just don't feel that this is one of them. Again, we hear the stories of the people who are, I mean, look what just happened with R. Kelly. And like, my God, the person who is next to him in his jail cell, like, I don't know what, just really like, send an SOS, send letters from prison, like let us know how that goes. But that being said, like you hear stories of women who are really put in horrible, awful, rotten positions by men who think that they can, right? Because of that power balance. And that's not okay. But this is like, you know, we need to distinguish a little bit, people. Like we're getting a little headline happy over here with this situation. And that's what I mean too. It's like, you see The Cut, and of course The Cut is like the women's branch of New York Magazine, and I read a whole piece about this, an op-ed, and it's the same thing as what Emily Ratajkowski is saying, right? It's like this Adam Levine has himself to blame, and that's it, and blah blah blah, and you know the woman has no part basically in it. And I don't think it gets any of us anywhere to keep like going down that path. And that's the thing too, like I'm coming to realize I've even had people on my show, right, who have talked about their experience of misogyny in entertainment and in the business. And I've said, it feels like, it's funny, I had a coffee actually this morning with a girl who is awesome. She's definitely going to come on my show. Super talented, so damn smart and intelligent and articulate, like true hard nipple moment. Like what was supposed to be a 1 hour coffee turned into like almost 3 hours of social issues, politics, creativity, our business, like a real moment. But she was talking to me about this too, how what she experienced in Hollywood and the misogyny and all this. And I told her like, it's really eye-opening for me because I haven't experienced it. It doesn't mean I don't think it's out there. But it makes me sad. Like it makes me sad to hear these stories. I don't doubt that it's out there. And it feels like in a way, because I haven't experienced it, like you guys know, I was literally on the red carpet, wrote op-eds about Me Too as it was all happening. As the exposés were coming out, like I was right there. And it still felt like almost like a fable, like a far away, like it's like a tale, like an old tale, because I'm like, this doesn't happen anymore. Like this still happens. What? In what world? Like it feels like a different planet, a different time, right? I'm like, this is like ages ago. You know what I mean? Like, how does this still happen anymore? So with that being said, I understand like even the Emily Ratajkowski's feeling like she was exploited or this or that. So I can understand where they're coming from. But I think it doesn't do women any service to act like they are like completely, you know, innocent and victims in it all the time. Like it just doesn't. Again, doesn't make Adam Levine any less of a sleaze, but that's that. So this is another thing too, right? These buzzwords are thrown around all the time. I've said this before. I feel like they've lost their weight, but not only that, I don't even know if people really understand what they mean. So they throw it around. I'm not saying Emily Ratajkowski doesn't understand what misogyny means, but let's take a beat, okay? Because here is what it actually is. Misogyny is the dislike of, contempt for, and ingrained prejudice against women. So when you are calling, say, like Sarah Foster, right, who's like taking the focus and putting the attention on this girl or a woman for like do better and all this, that's misogyny. And it's like, is it though? Or is it the fact that, again, as women, we can disagree with the actions or the words of other women, and we want women to be better and to be responsible and to be smart and capable of what we're doing and in control, right? Like, I don't know if that's necessarily, I mean, it's like, just take a beat. Like, and it's also that thing too. It's like, can women be misogynist? Maybe, but it's like, again, contempt for your own self. Maybe, again, women are bullies, women are petty, you know, but it's worth looking at. It's like, really, what is misogyny? Is it a built-in contempt? And that's another thing that's been eye-opening for me being here. I had a conversation the other day with someone, and they talked about, again, this is where I feel a little like a fish out of water in a place like Nashville, because I didn't grow up in the South and I've never lived in the South. And this person was talking about even how the men here have a built-in, because I have the backs of guys a lot. I have the backs of women as well, of course, all the time. But, and you know, sometimes I'll throw around like male gaze, misogyny. It's like, is it really, is it like, all right, like, let's give dudes a little bit of room here. Like, they're not all bad, you know, that type of thing. But they talked about how they'll go out on dates here with guys in Nashville, and, you know, the girls are pretty, whatever. And then as soon as they're like opinionated or strong-willed or educated or have a lot to say, the guy's like, all right, that's enough out of you. Or like, it's a little too much, you know? And the person I was talking to felt like that was a form of like built-in misogyny that they didn't even realize that they had. So it may not be an outward, like, you are woman, so you are less than now. Make me a sandwich, lady. Turkey and ham it is today. Like, it may not be an outward thing like that. But again, I like the way that she framed it, because she's like, they don't even realize they're doing it. It's just a built-in thing of like, okay, yeah, shush now, or like, that's enough out of you, which like clearly they haven't met Taylor Ferber. So in comes cancel me, baby. Enter the chat. No, but yeah, run for your lives, bitch. But I think it's worth taking a look at, you know, all the sides of it while we just like throw these words around. Something else that the Instagram influencer acknowledged is the fact that she is in fact an Instagram influencer with her body all over social media, and that there is a stereotype there. Like, let me ask you this, to the people of this podcast, to the masses, what is it? This is what I do really want to know. What is it about the Instagram influencer stereotype? Like, why is it every time we see a famous guy cheat, it is a cliche with the Instagram influencer? They like all have that same look and aesthetic. Like, what is it about that? So she acknowledges, I get it. I get that it's a stereotype, but this is different, that kind of thing. And while we're on this topic, it just makes me think, right? Like, why are there stereotypes? Sometimes I think, again, this isn't the popular thing to say, but I think about it a lot doing this show. And sometimes, guys, I feel like stereotypes are a thing for a reason. Like, underneath, I'm not saying obviously there's stereotypes, like not everyone in that group, right? Like, I'm a Jew. Are all Jews cheap? Right? Like, that idea. It's, I think not all of them, but is it a common sort of funny thing? Sure. Like, I think underneath it, not everybody, it's not going to be that generalized. You can't put a blanket statement over everyone, but I think underneath there's some truth to it. And it made me think about this. It's like, listen, even the blonde stereotype, I know that blondes have a stereotype for not being the brightest bulbs in the box. And that is what, like, I have my blonde moments. I certainly have my blonde moments. Okay. But it's also why I work so hard to prove how educated and informed I am, and how, you know, articulate I am, because of that very thing. So it makes me think about this. It's like, don't be a stereotype. Just don't be a stereotype then, right? When you think about it, it's like the blonde thing. Like, I know about it. I'm aware of it. So I purposefully try not to be that. As much as my blonde moments will come out and they will really have their claim to fame, like a Jessica Simpson chicken of the sea moment. Like, again, it gets the best of us, right? But don't be a stereotype. Because again, I think that there's for some reason, truth underneath it. So that's, just something I'm thinking about with all of this. And again, this idea of like, when we get caught in our tracks, we're a society that really prides ourselves, right? Like, on being like progressive and woke, so to speak, and informed and enlightened and moving forward. However, when we're caught in our tracks with something, it's suddenly like we're so naive and we had no idea. It's like, and I'm not blaming anybody. Again, like, we're all humans. And as my friend and I earlier over coffee said, like, spinning on a burning rock into the abyss. So who really cares? Like, and this is, again, the self-righteous thing. This is what the internet does. Notice they're like, he's wrong, she's wrong, he's this. It's like, again, where do you get off? Where do you have the audacity to be policing people's actions all day? So with that being said, let's just acknowledge there's a little bit of gray, right? And a little bit of crazy to all sides of us. So that's something. And something else actually that I was talking with this awesome woman about earlier this morning, speaking to the IG model thing and the stereotype, right, is the whole idea of why on God's green earth. I've talked about this before, but the fact that I will complain about it day in, I will complain about it to anyone who will listen. I'm like, listen, algorithm people, algorithm Nazis of the universe. How come when I post an articulate point, getting an idea across on my show, like making a great point, it'll get maybe 300 views. But don't worry, I just posted a reel yesterday of going up a flight of stairs. I didn't even know that it was being taken, and it has racked in over 10,000 views. So riddle me that, the convenience. And sometimes I will put IG on blast. I literally will be like, how convenient. Here is a photo of me in a bathroom taking a selfie because I was bored and felt like it and was trying to get away from Fred, who was talking to me over the cheese platter, okay, at this event. 10 times more engagement and views than, again, me making a pointed statement or idea on my show. Riddle me that, the convenience, right? Like, how nice. So I'll just play their game, and you know what? I'll play up to both. I will give you both because that is what we do, and that's how we roll. Okay, don't box me. But it's that idea, right, of like how convenient it's going to reward this over that. And so that's something else that makes me think about like the whole like Instagram model. Like, you guys know I talk about this topic often, but that's something else to think about. It's like, people always say, I was just at the festival last weekend, as you guys know, my last couple episodes, and I talked to this TikTok artist about it, and he's like, how am I going to compete with like a girl in a bikini, right? So it's that sort of thing where it's like, is there a part of it where it's like human nature and that's just what we're drawn to, and sex sells and that whole thing, or the fact that like it's this machine that rewards that, and so we're just going to play into it, right? And then that gets into a whole thing like, I am just going down this rabbit hole, like it is Wonderland. But then it gets into this whole thing too, right, of like, are you going to knock the hustle of the IG model, or is it cool the fact that they don't have to depend on the Playboys or these people to post their photos, like the gatekeepers, right? They can just like go out and make money and do it on their own. Like, they don't need the gatekeepers kind of thing, or the people giving them the green light. Or is it like, make it, cut it the old school way, sweetheart, and get in line like the rest of us. You know what I mean? So that is a whole other thing that I've been thinking about with this whole scenario. But all of that goes to say, this is somebody who, again, two people who aren't naive, who are in the business of influencing the masses, of being hot, of knowing that they're hot and using that sexuality. Obviously his more than hers, but nonetheless, like, it's a two-way street in that regard. So let's not forget. And that's the thing too, like, he had such an over-the-top apology, which gets me to what I was talking about earlier, which is like the true and maybe more dark or out of line side of humans that we don't like to acknowledge. But he says, I will never do this again. I'm disgusted. You know, I take accountability. While he says it never got physical or in person or anything, that again, maybe just a he said, she said, we don't know. She says that this affair lasted up to over a year. Who knows if it was half-baked subpar text? Like, we don't know. But the way that he framed it, I thought it's just so telling again of our culture, like so over the top, right? Like, I'm never going to do this again. And all I'm focus on is it was misjudgment. And all I care about is my family, which his wife, by the way, is pregnant with their third child. But he's like, all I care about is them. Like, just so over the top. And it's like, bro, like, there's a reason underneath you did it. And guess what? Like, they say once a cheater, always a cheater, right? Maybe, again, not the popular thing to say, but I've had listeners DM me and be like, dude, this whole thing is starting to make me think, like, are we just not meant to be monogamous? You know, that whole thing. Again, I'm not defending his behavior, and that shit would not fly here. Like, don't call me Buzz Lightyear, because you ain't gonna fly in here, pal, with that kind of stuff, right? But it makes me think, like, the over the top apology, like, if you didn't get caught, would you keep doing it? Yes. Like, because maybe it is a part of your nature. Disrespecting your wife and disrespecting maybe that yoga teacher or this girl or other people, like, that's not okay. I'm talking about the idea of the flirtatiousness, the, you know, being intrigued by other people's sexuality, thinking other people are hot versus one person. That's all, right? So something to think about. Again, we are not all so pure. And speaking of, so that's that. That is that. So guys, just girl, my last thoughts on this. I'm like, girl, plural, no. Girls, you know, again, doesn't serve us to be acting so naive or to be fully participant in something, fully consenting in something, because again, there are times when that is not the case. And then maybe later regretting it or feeling guilt or feeling shame. And again, that would be like me coming out and airing out my whole situation and the guy and the whole thing. It's like, no, because I take responsibility. I knew exactly what I was doing. I knew exactly what situation I was in. You know, it takes two to tango, and we're going to tango over to Candace Owens and the Kardashians. Okay, speaking of self-righteousness. So it's interesting because I often talk about how the left and the right, or the woke and the non-woke, are two sides of the same coin. And I don't know if you hear the sirens, but all I have to say is thank God that the morality police on both sides are in town today, because you have the Emily Ratajkowskis over here, right? And then you know that people on the right, like, that's another thing I'm getting a quick education to being here. I'm a New England girl, lived in New York City, lived in LA, right? This is my first time residing in a place. This is the South in Nashville, right? So this very conservative mindset of, you want to call it Christian conservative, all this, right? But the idea of putting such shame and guilt around sexuality and around lust and that whole thing, like, it's bad and it's shameful and all this, right? So that's been eye-opening, to say the least. I'm like, have you seen my Playboy spread? Because let me tell you, it is on stands and page 15, it's going down. No, but so Candace Owens, okay, so this is like, Candace Owens is like the Emily Ratajkowski of the other side, right? Kim Kardashian, there's been a whole, this is like the saga that never ends. Like, you thought the Twilight saga was never it would be passed on to your kids' 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 kids. Like, this sex tape with Kim Kardashian is truly the saga that is haunting our generation and never ends. It's like, we get it. So it was resurfaced because Ray J came out with all these receipts basically saying that Kim and Chris were behind the releases of the sex tape, that there are contracts with their signatures, and they purposefully released it and they were behind it, and they're painting him like the bad guy. And Kim has acted all this time like she's been innocent in it all and was a victim, like, unlike Pam Anderson, who was violated and her privacy was just brought out on the public sphere, like, unwillingly, right? So this is like a whole other ball of wax. And, you know, I'm never going to fault Kim Kardashian for using her sexuality and also being a fire businesswoman. Like, I'm just not. You're never going to catch me. She is one of the most influential and powerful figures, and arguably one of the most famous people in the world. So that's what happens when you unleash your sexuality, brains, and body, people. Yeah. And work ethic, like, damn. But, you know, whatever. I feel like I've seen her at events that I've covered in LA talking about being a victim of the sex tape and all that. So in that case, this applies to her. Again, it's like that. I don't have a problem, right, with it. Would I do it? No. But it's like, take the responsibility and the accountability then. Like, I don't like then turning around and acting like the naive, no, I was a victim. No, I wasn't a part of this. No, you know, it's like, no, like you had a hand in it, perhaps. Certainly with the girl before this, like just own it and like, let's move on. Right. But so that's, yes. So who chimes in but Grifter Candace Owens, which half the time I'm like, and other like right-wing pundits. And I'm like, what does this have to do with your livelihood whatsoever? Like, I need to know what this actually has to do with your life. But nevertheless, she comes out and just goes so hard on Kim Kardashian, literally saying that Kim is a prostitute. She'll never change her mind. Kris Jenner is her pimp, and that Kim Kardashian is literally a corpse without a soul. Literally going that far. It's like, dude, chill. You really need to relax. And I've seen other like young right-wing conservatives. This is where, again, like they go so far. It doesn't need to be this hard. They'll retweet or quote Candace Owens and be like, see, this is all the proof you guys need that Hollywood is satanic and demonic, and you need to cut yourselves off and remove yourselves from them completely. It's like, really, seriously, give me the biggest break ever. Like, you guys honestly need to chill. But the way that Candace Owens, again, looks at it with such a holier than thou mindset, literally being like, Kim is a corpse without a soul. That shit is aggressive. Okay. And she says, you know, because she had sex out of wedlock, you know, with Ray J and, you know, that whole thing, and they weren't married. And this whole thing, even like being in this environment and talking to some of these people, it's like, look, I'm a live and let live person, like to each their own, but it makes me think it's like this uptight, like puritanical view of the world. I'm thinking to myself, like, do you not have sex? Like, I'm not saying like a sex tape out there for the masses is the same as us, you know, Samaritans having sex, but I'm just saying it's like, literally, Candace sounds like, you have you have children. Like, do you not have sex? Or do you actually believe this? Like, what actually is happening here? So it's just so, and the whole extreme view of like Hollywood is so satanic and demonic. It's just so extra, and it's so much. And it's so funny because, again, it's like, this is right from wrong. You know what I mean? In Emily Ratajkowski's case, it's like men are wrong and women are innocent victims who are always right. And Candace Owens, it's almost like the reverse. Like, Candace Owens is like, all men are good. We should be their servants for life. And women, you are all pimps and whores and bad and following lust and out of wedlock. It's just like, my God, people, seriously, like, how about the fact that people live in a way that you don't live and they're going about their lives just fine? Like, who literally appointed you? Who appointed you? Did Gandhi resurrect from the grave and appoint you the morality police? I need an answer. I honestly need an answer. And that's a sad thing. It's like, I get it. We're in a time where everybody is so self-important and entitled and like dig into their views, but it's like, your way isn't the only way. And like, this whole right from wrong, black and white thing is insane to me. I've been talking with a lot of people about this, and it's so crazy. It makes me think how these people really live, even like the Candace Owens thing, or other like far right people who are all pure and shit. I'm like, seriously, like, do you never feel sexy? Do you not get sexed up for your man? Do you not have sex? You know what I mean? Funny enough, it's like the tale as old as time. It's the hypocrisy, because a lot of the times, like with whether it be politicians, whoever, you find these people who are so, you know, again, puritanical about everything and preachy about everything. They're the first ones. Like, a friend said to me the other day, he's like, they're the first ones, you know, to be preaching all this shit and then be caught with their pants down at a glory hole in a gas station in mid-Arkansas. Seriously, like, you know what I mean? So it's just like, where is the lie? And I think instead of preaching so much, everybody needs to be have a little more grace and be a little more transparent about their own shit. Because honestly, I don't buy it. I don't buy it that half the time people even believe what they're saying. And that's why even I called out Emily Ratajkowski again when she came out with her book, because it's like, at the same time, it's like, you use your body and your gorgeousness and your sex appeal for a career. For now, I don't mean that. I would never say that that gives people the go ahead or the right to treat you poorly or to not respect you. At the same time, having so many qualms with a business, Hollywood, that is literally the most superficial business based off of looks. Like, looks is the first thing that we see. It's almost like running around biting your own tail, right? It's like, well, which is it? Like, are you going to feed into the thing that you claim to not like? And then in Candace Owens' case, it's like, I just think that she will truly rile up her base no matter what the cost, no matter the topic. You could be literally talking about the double stuffed Oreo getting discontinued and somehow it will fit into the brand. Like, make it make sense. Lastly, while this is all going on, who again comes out of the woodwork but Elizabeth Chambers? So Elizabeth Chambers was Armie Hammer's wife. And they were together for years since they were teenagers, I think married for 10 years. And then we all know what happened with Armie Hammer. I think he's like a busboy in Jamaica now. But she did her first sit down interview. And I can attest to this too, because funny enough, I interviewed Elizabeth Chambers on a red carpet right before COVID. And I remember asking her about their relationship, and she talked about how much, obviously because of being in show business, how much they were apart and kept the fire hot with long distance and really making it work when they were together, when they were apart. I think she really loved him. And she came out this week with her first sit down interview since everything went down with him. And which, oddly enough, I feel like is a similar situation to this Adam Levine thing, right? Where we see grown women consenting to something. And yes, there's gray. Maybe they weren't totally comfortable. Maybe they felt intimidated or pressured, or, liked it in the moment and then later like freaked out. Again, I know I've experienced that, right? And then came to like come out with this thing or whatever it is, right? So it's almost like similar in this way to what we're seeing here. But I thought it was really interesting. I watched the interview and she doesn't like trash him. She talks about how he is really working on healing, how she's working on healing, how they talk constantly, and how the whole idea of the oxygen mask on the plane, right? Like, you have to put how they say, put your own mask on first before you put on others, and how that's what she's helping him do. She's helping support him and his process to be the best co-parent, to be the best father that he could be. And it was just so refreshing, right? Like, you would think that this woman would be Emily Ratajkowski's and Candace Owens' love child. Like, Spawn. Like, you literally would think she would be that, given that she was in this situation. Instead, it's like, no, listen, like, I went through a lot. I've grown a lot. I'm helping him in the process. We were together, we grew up together, all this. And I thought that was so interesting and given with so much grace. And I thought it really reflected, like, right. Like, again, not excusing if Armie Hammer did in fact like try to take out someone's spleen and eat it with them watching. Like, I'm not excusing that, but I'm just saying, I thought it was really reflective of how, again, we are nuanced and we're complicated and there are dark sides to us, and it's not so black and white. And it really made me think, moving forward, it's like, I feel all of us, without pointing fingers all the time, like maybe we don't know what's right and wrong as a society. We've just come up with these rules and followed this shit and no one really knows, right? So I feel like everybody can do better. We're always in such a camp of like, the men need to do better. The Adam Levines need to do better. No, the Kim Kardashians need to do better. And it's like, how about this? How about the fact that men can do better at being respectful of women? First things first, right? Understanding women and giving them their space and allowing them to be heard and honoring them. And also, women should be better to take responsibility and accountability for their actions and not be the boy who cried wolf and cry victim at every turn, right? And pretend to be so naive. And so here I am being like, here, so everyone stop telling everyone what to do, but here's how everyone be better. So Taylor actually is in fact the God of your lives, Taylor Almighty, Bruce Almighty, the sequel. No, but like that no one asked for. And also society as a whole, like, we're getting deep. We are getting philosophical today. But that idea, again, of being so hell-bent of what is right and what is wrong and what is black and what is white. Because in the end, aren't we all living in glass homes ourselves?